Legacy. What do we leave for the future? For some, it's the gift of the next generation, children. For others, it's the mark that we leave upon the world that will be remembered. To put it simply, aside of some butterfly effect thing, what would be the impact on the world if you never were? The question of that could arguably be made in Batman from the original animated series as well as Batman Beyond. To put it bluntly, if that mugger had killed 3 people in that alley and not 2, if that had been the end of it, would it have changed things? Well, of course it would have, in the present. And of course the hero that boy would become did help avert large-scale threats in ways that likely no one else could have. But look around the world in the opening minutes of Rebirth and see that after decades of battling crime in Gotham City, criminals still brazenly go about their dark deeds. Batman does not retire because his task is finished. He retires because he can no longer fight it anymore. He's a crime fighter, but in the end, crime won. As we see when Terry enters the scene, and we see gangs threatening people still. The Joker has a legacy, but no one opposes them in the name of Batman. Batman rose up, fought as long as he could, and then vanished from the world. And the cost of that fight was Bruce Wayne. That boy may not have died in that alley, but he would cease to be because of it. I mean, any good that was done in the name of Bruce Wayne was ultimately through the resources of his company, and could have been done if left in a trust with someone like, say, Lucius. Batman and Bruce Wayne changed the world, but after he passes away, will that matter to people? Not have some unspoken effect, but for a man who gave everything for one cause, will people continue to remember his sacrifice? For the DCAU, it all started back in On Leather Wings, when he fought the scientist-turned-monster Man-Bat. You probably can guess the tale, taking on the bat form at first as an experiment, and then after that, no matter what else happened, he says he was compelled more and more to do it, to become this creature of the night until the man he was would no longer exist. In our episode for today, Terry slips past the security defenses using the same kind of tool Batman did to find evidence in the Man-Bat case, that little knockout gas trick. But even though he's using the tools, he's not wearing the suit, because this isn't for Batman. This is for Terry Mcginnis, who finds the aged Amanda Waller, who was a frequent enemy in Justice League Unlimited. Why is it Justice League Unlimited? Well, it seems that in the original Justice League series, they suspected that Season 2 was going to be the end of it. So they gave this huge epic to close it out and change everything forever. And the network looked at this final end, applauded, and said, "Great! What have you got for Season 3? So they created Justice League Unlimited to pick up where Season 3 would have been, introducing a lot of new characters that had never been animated before and probably never will again. So that went on for 2 seasons, and as it neared its end, they had the feeling that this was going to be it, the final curtain on the series, and probably for the DCAU. So after a multi-part story, they reserved the last episode of the season, Epilogue here, to be a final bow placed on the series, a look back to the past that was set in the future. One last tip of the hat to the loyal audience as they finally lowered the curtain, and the network looked at that, dried their eyes and applauded, and said, "Great! What have you got for Season 3? It's not readily apparent, but these things shot in uber widescreen format are not flashbacks, as you might expect. It's Terry imagining how conversations would go. We know it's not real because the clock he smashes here is actually just fine later on. But all this is a bit confusing in that regard. Anyway, this story is set 15 years in the future of Batman Beyond, so that's why Terry is so solidly built now, and Bruce looks, well, like he's about ready to start in Despicable Me 3. And all he can talk about is how the mission is the only thing that matters. The others quit because they couldn't hack it, and it probably will be no different with Terry. In reality, he's talking to the old lady.
I don't want tea. I want answers.
Then you're going to have to humor me. It's been many a year since I had a handsome gentleman caller.
I may be old, but I still get horny.
Why is it that superheroes are always so good looking? Drink up.
I don't want any tea.
Pardon me, I guess finding out my entire life is a lie has gotten in the way of my manners. The next hypothetical discussion is with his girlfriend. Yes, girlfriend. After 15 years, they're still dating. On the grounds that if the bad guys learned who Batman was, they'd go after her as his wife. Whereas, as merely the girl he's been sleeping with for a decade and a half, obviously there'd be no point in going after her then. The only effect that their not being married would have on that is that when the villains hear she's not actually his wife by now, they'd console her and tell him to be ashamed of himself. But no, he breaks up with her. Sure did make her holding out for him worth it, huh? What a dick. Soon, Terry and the future Justice League are battling supervillains, but it's in black and white widescreen, so not only does this mean that this is not actually happening, but also, haha, this fight is art! But this is just to allow him to announce that he's quitting being Batman to them, which really makes that whole dumping his girlfriend thing confusing. I'm gonna finally do what I want to do! Move to Venice, California and become a street musician! When Bruce's kidney failed and Terry offered a tissue sample, it was a perfect match. Long odds for a random stranger, but not for a relative, especially a son. Oh, sorry. Dun dun dun! Terry's pissed off because this means that all the things his father did for him, the person he believed was his father, was never his real father at all. That, or else Bruce rewrote his DNA after they met, like the Joker did with Tim Drake back in Return of the Joker, only presumably without all that Jekyll and Hyde stuff. What this really shows us is how Terry sees Bruce as a man so consumed by his war against crime that literally nothing else matters. A manipulative, unfeeling Machiavellian bastard who, even as he struggles for the pills he needs to live, can't stop going on about how important that mission is. That's important for the reality we're about to see. In a flashback, the newest incarnation of the Royal Flush Gang attacks. See, there's Samurai Jack. And there's Dr. Light, completing our mini-theme for this week's reviews, Dr. Light. After the League takes care of the flunkies, but not Ace, Ace is creating all that psychedelic stuff with her mind, a power that she had gotten from the group Cadmus. Soon Waller shows up to explain that this isn't a hallucination this time. She's creating real things now. And she's going to die soon, which will kill everyone within miles of her mind powers. So the only choice is to kill her first. Batman takes that job on himself with the special device Waller has. You might be saying, wait a second, I thought that Batman had a code against killing. Well, yeah, he has no intention of using that. All he wants to do is talk with her about ending her simulation before she dies in order to spare those people. But he's not going to kill her. Because Terry was wrong. Bruce may be obsessed with his mission, but he hasn't lost touch. He doesn't kill her, not because it's not his way, but because that's not what the situation needs anyway. She lost her childhood because of Cadmus, just like he lost his. He understands what that's like, and he wouldn't wish it on anyone, including Terry. But more than that, he doesn't kill her because there's a reason that man is part of his name, because he's just as human as the rest of us. To see that, you only have to see how he, the man who is famous for the way he solves problems, handles things here. No carefully calculated plan, no fists, no gadgets. Batman saves the day simply by connecting with another human being. So in the present, or future I guess, Waller admits that it wasn't Bruce that took away Terry's life. It was her. Because of all of them, he was the one she respected the most, despite the fact that they were often enemies. So she took some of his DNA.
Bruce's DNA was easy enough to obtain. He left it all over town. Not remotely what I meant.
Damn, even I didn't see that one coming. Anyway, she found a couple that seemed to match the Wayne's psychological profile, and so injected Terry's father with a serum that gave him bat semen. Did you know that that is an anagram of basement? I just felt the need to quickly change the subject after the word bat semen. 9 years or so later, the young spawn of this unholy union is returning home with his parents from a film when, let's just say someone we'll be talking about more in detail later on this year shows up, and was prepared to kill the parents on instructions from Waller. Because of Batman's tragic past, that's an important part of who he is. I'm betting that after that she probably would have used her Cadmus connections to raise the young Terry to become Batman. Her kind of Batman, though. But that didn't happen because in the end the assassin refused, apparently pointing out that turn a happy child into an orphan as a bullet point in any plan is probably a stupid plan. Of course, as Terry notes, his father did die eventually and did drive him to become Batman.
Don't you get it? No matter what you did or didn't do, I was going to end up being Bruce's carbon copy. It was fate.
But the point of the story, and the point Waller makes, is that that's not true. Terry can stop being Batman if he wants, but he won't. Not because it's fate, and certainly not because this mission is all important, but because to not help people would simply to be someone besides Terry. Terry didn't have tragedy when he stopped that Joker on the subway, nor when he stopped the gang's attack outside the club. No deep trauma related to loss or genetic influence compelled him to act. He had a choice, and he chose to stand up for people. And he can choose to be a Batman like Bruce, or a Batman different from Bruce, or to not be Batman altogether. It's his choice. So Terry decides that he'll be Batman, but he won't let that stop him from marrying her. His girlfriend, not Waller. God knows what hideous contraption she'd have waiting in bed.
You're in my chair.
And wipe that stupid grin off your face. I knew someone else who grinned all the time. Oh yes, he was my mortal enemy, dipshit. So, as in On Leather Wings, when a villain manipulated genes to try to become the next stage of evolution for man and bat, the new Batman flies off, past the Sky Patrol who wonder aloud who that could have been. But we know. It's Terry McGinnis, who is his own man. But also, for Batman and for his father, Bruce Wayne, he is his legacy. Obviously, whether this episode works for you or not is going to depend on whether or not you hate the idea of Bruce being Terry's father, and it's been much debated among fandom. While it sounds hokey simply as a plot statement, I don't really have a problem with it. It makes the story what it is, one of a young man who questions what he is and what that means, and decides that it doesn't change who you are as a person one bit. Terry is not chained to the past. It is the means by which he will be able to achieve whatever future he wishes. And for Bruce, not only did we get a chance to see a side of Batman we often don't consider, but we see how things in a way have come full circle, with him arguably now taking on the role of Alfred for his protege, making him soup, taking messages, worrying over him, though he won't admit to it, the guide to the young hero in reaching his full potential.